FMX 2026 Spatial Storytelling Track. Hey everyone, I'm Allan. I'm an design engineer, mainly working in the industry of augmented reality and virtual reality and everything in between. Also now AI started penetrating this industry too, so there's a lot of exciting things going on there. And today I'll be sharing with you what does it really take to design and develop a large-scale mixed reality attraction for the whole family. So, and in this specific case, it means like, how is it to make something specific for one location, whether that be outdoor or indoor, warehouse, small room, etc. And mixed reality means that you can basically see everything around you, but you overlay this with digital objects, right? So let's get to it. In this specific case, there's a lot of in this specific brief, I'll say there was a lot of constraints we have to design around. So, for example, a more like mainstream one, or more like often something that many other people has to design for, is a noisy environment. So what if you're inside a warehouse with 200 people running around next to you? You can't really rely on like using speech recognition because it will blur out the stuff. You can pick up the voices from other people around you. Also, what if you can't really hear anything? So maybe like the um, the sound design shouldn't be as important as it usually is. Then another constraint is no instructions, no UI. This also again goes back to like, how can you really design to someone that's 5 years old and someone who's 90 years old. For example, the 5-year-old maybe doesn't even like fully understand the language yet. There's also the things with like, what if they don't speak English? You have to then translate, and that's not just super scalable. Also, in general, UI and instructions just really like adds a lot of friction to the whole thing. And when you go to a theme park and ride a roller coaster and stuff like that, you don't really have much explanation. You just sit in and enjoy the ride. And in this specific case, we needed to use hand tracking, so that means no controllers. That means we're gonna be missing out on the haptic feedback, and there's no buttons, right? So we have to figure out other ways to really use input. So maybe, I will get into that later. So you can't really use the buttons there to do any actions, or use the grab button to grab objects and like that. And in this specific case, no head straps. So you basically like hold the headset with one hand, and the other hand you can use for hand tracking. And this is the reason for this is also like, there's a lot of friction that gets removed there. Imagine if you have to get 30 people through the experience, or you have to get 30 people to share this one single headset. Also, in one case, I experienced actually the head straps was too small for a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. So it's just much easier if you remove the head strap, and then it's like kind of like almost like a museum binocular sort of experience. And then everything has to kind of be like, standalone, side quest, interactive, small interactions. So that means, what if a person starts in the right side of the venue, or decides to go to the dragon right away? That just needs to work. So we can't really have any typical linear storylines or gameplay here. And to kind of solve this, everything must be interactive. And I'll explain more about this as we go through the slides here. Yeah, so again, like the noise stuff, yeah, we can't really use any voiceovers or explainers. At least that is important to the thing. It can be like add-ons. Like, of course, you can have NPCs, and the enemies can make sound when you hit them or you beat them, right? But it can't rely on these things. And yeah, again, same with speech recognition, because it's maybe not going to be picked up, or you can't really isolate the voices. So what if somebody else is kind of triggering your gameplay? And what does it mean to make non-linear gameplay? We kind of came up with a system and this is kind of more like in the similar to how set pieces are, right? So these are standalone pieces that you can go and interact with. And this was for a Halloween experience, and still kind of like child friendly, and stuff like that. So also it was very important that all these set pieces gonna look great from no matter where you're gonna approach them for, because in mixed reality we can't predict in which directions people are coming from. So you really have to just make everything look good and interesting from all the angles. And yeah, this was 3 of them. And yeah, here you see a lava pit and some spider crawling on the web. And yeah, again, like all this stuff is interactive. Here you see some more set pieces that we made. Again, like spider is kind of the all main theme here. And then, yeah, down to the right, we see like more kind of grape rubber styled set piece. And yeah, here again, some more stuff, a little bit bigger. You can see the pumpkin jack boss there in the top. He is like the main guy, so we put him in the middle of the venue, and you will eventually hopefully make your way to him. But of course, it's not game breaking if you never interact with him. The whole idea is just to have fun around the venue and the gameplay in general, similar to what you do in the Universal Studios with the magic wand. You can go and interact with stuff, but these these specific isolated experiences, they don't need to connect, but they can, and I'll get back to that later. Um, Here is also like another layout you can see for um, kind of like an overall experience. I have the library part, you have the dragon, you have the fountain. The fountain is also interactive. You have Golok, the monster in there, and then you have you have a marketplace. So all these things, they can work on their own, and yeah, and there's also some puzzle down in the right corner you can see now. And it's very important that again, like these things are interactive. So you can see here that no matter what we do, like punching the trees or burning the spider web, it's super important that everything is interactive. And in our case, we have magic spells at our disposal. So, and we had 6 magic spells, so that was really yeah. So basically, each object, and I think we had hundreds or more objects at this point, that needs to react in. So that would be 6, and actually 8 different ways, because you can also walk into stuff, and you can punch it with the sword. So yeah, so that will be 800 different interactions if you assume we have 100 objects. And yeah, again, here's the magic spells that we designed. And yeah, you have 6 of them. Fire spell, and in this case you can steer the fireball. So you cast it, and then you steer it around while it's airborne. the frost spell can use to be like freezing objects, and then if you hit it another time, you can then break them. Lightning spell will kind of make objects jump or behave in this kind of like typical shock behavior. Tornado will suck up objects, spin it around and throw them out. Levitate, you can use this for like grabbing objects, placing them around, and or just like shooting them out. So levitate is a good spell to use for like puzzle games, or it's very fun to break stuff with it. And then you can do this all over again as many times as you want if you use the reversal spell. So you just like have to use the reversal spell, and then everything resets back to their original state. And yeah, like I said, no UI, right? So we have the wand here. You can see the wand is taking damage. We're not gonna like flash a screen red or kill you, or there's no health bar. And you can see here, also here's another example of diegetic design. So diegetic design means that you insert UI elements into the game itself, rather than having like a player HUD or adding it onto the screen. So yeah, really like there's also good examples when you shouldn't use diegetic elements, because it can also, there's a risk of that being confusing. But in this case, we used this kind of watch, and it was very cool in this like wizard style. And you can see we use it for, so basically there was like a lot of different experiences also at the venue, and this visiting experience we were working on was just one of them. There was like a Star Wars like experience and some Super Mario like experiences, and they would also have a watch similar to this. So coins would sort of be the global accepted score across all these like worlds per se. And then when you got to the venue, you basically booked a time slot of 30 minutes or more, and then we would have a timer also counting down on the wrist. And this like watch is very hard to miss, so it's kind of right up in your face with this important information. And then, like I said, yeah, it needs to work with like it needs to work for all ages. So we can't really have any concept of dying and stuff. Let me just stop it. Okay, good. Yeah, so no concept of dying. So now that you have this magic wand here, we thought, okay, what if we just break the wand when you die? This wand then can be repaired later. And also then when you get attacked by a spider, you then get the spider web is then blocking the wand, and you can just flick it to like shake it off. So we're like child friendly, family friendly things here, and but also very kind of time consuming, because we need to, for each enemy type, we need a whole new diegetic UI on the wand for this, right? And again, more like stuff you can see here. So again, the spider web, and then the Golok boss here, like he would then grab your wand with the tongue, which was a very fun experience. It's a super long tongue, and also you can see in the blood effect, they are green, not red. So and that's also something China does. You cannot release games in China if they are using red blood. Then also it's important to use like original one of the dagger designs. So one spell is dagger here, and we originally proposed the left one. You can see very realistic and almost, I mean, too realistic. Also because it would feel very real when you stab something. So we kind of had to soften off the edges later and stuff like that. And I'll just play this video again here. Or did it go? Oh yeah. So you see here, and again the green. And also we made it more like a ghost sword, so just using a transparent shader and stuff like that. Okay, so also it's super important to do lots of user testing. So we really did a lot of that all around different places, outside and inside, different people, different ages. I think especially in the gaming industry, there's a tendency of just, and in the XR industry, there's a tendency of just, you know, there's a tendency of just testing in the editor and not putting on the headset and going out there. And I don't know why that is. Probably because it takes longer time to build, or it's because that people are lazy. So yeah, I advise there is all across the board. Just get out there and test. Don't spend too much time in your computer, even though as comforting as it is. And then like I said, I really mean use the test everywhere. Use the test as many different places as you can. Here we are in a climbing gym, testing in between our climbs, and yeah, you can see the electric spell here and the goal lock. It was pretty. What was pretty hard was to get the angular velocity fine tuned. So when you flick your arm, or actually you flick your wrist, it's gonna go off. But also we don't want the spells to go off when you don't want them to go off. And here you can see another version of the sword we used. Feels a little bit more powerful, less like a dagger, more like a long sword. Also, it's better to use a longer weapon in mixed reality, so you get some more distance. So you basically reduce the chance of like hitting something physical. And yeah, that was our climbing. And here, even like you can see, I don't know if you can guess where I am right now. But yeah, we created a testing system where you can pinch and you can move around the play space artificially, so you don't have to move yourself. And maybe you can see now I'm actually inside a car. So I was testing inside the Uber. It's not great to test, place to test, but yeah, why not? This was also very early phase of project. Lots of like interaction mechanics needed to be debugged, etc. And here you can see I'm inside the library and fighting the spiders, moving around with pinching my left hand. And yeah, here you can also see very early stages of the project. We had these spider webs appear on the screen, which in general 2D effects on your VR headsets doesn't feel great in VR. Like now we finally got this spatial depth. Now the world is your canvas, not your screen is your canvas anymore. So why not take advantage of the 3D environment that you now have access to? Also, like one of the things with the screen there is that it can sometimes make you feel dizzy or overwhelmed, and doesn't feel good when your whole screen is cluttered in this like 2D spider web. So yeah, that was why we decided later on to put it on your wand, and it just feels much nicer. Yeah, and here was a great example of not testing enough with other people, because this was a prototype we made where you have to you shoot spells by clicking, not with a controller, but with your hand. So you basically, when your thumb touches your I think this is index finger, then it would go off. But the problem is this, like, it might feel good, it might work reliable, but how do you explain this if you can't use tutorials and UI? So we easily and very fast decided to scrap this idea, cause it just doesn't feel very intuitive to do. I mean, I never done this before. So, and how many of you have done this before? And then actually by accident, I mean, we always knew we were gonna go with something flick based, but by accident, by bringing the headset to the park, I randomly met these kids here, and we didn't even talk. I just gave them the headset, and the first thing they do was to punch. And that turned out that's the most intuitive action that 99% of the people I tested with do. First thing they do is punch. So it was good to confirm that this flick motion is the right choice for the game overall. And it was a cool coincidence. So in general, just do more testing outside your circle. Yeah, of course you can do testing inside the office with people who already know AR and VR interactions, but really try and test with small kids and older people and people outside your community. That's where you're gonna find all the edge cases, and you can validate your ideas. And then again, you can see more of the flick to cast spells, and even the sword. Yeah, you also just flick there. And I was wrong before, because like we have 7 spells, right? Where the sword is one of them. And here you can see that the stones were shattered because they were frozen. And really everything is interactive. And this was also one of the early prototypes. And you could see there, like, he was trying to flick as much as he could, but nothing happened at some point. And that was a very tricky thing to actually fix, because the hand tracking data fidelity is what it is. Hand tracking is by no means perfect yet. It's getting better by every day, every update Meta is putting out, and all the other hand tracking providers are putting out. So it's a software thing that we can't really do much about, and it's very tricky to always make sure that the spell is cast when people want it to be cast, and to make sure that it's not cast when they don't want it to be cast. But also, if we need to decide between those two things, it's better that you're able to cast always when you want to cast, and then sometimes it goes off when you didn't expect it to. That's better than sometimes it's not gonna cast when you want it to cast. And what we had to do was that when you are moving, we don't want to count that as a movement variable to the flick casting, because in the start it would sometimes go off when you're moving your body. And then instead we decided to track the relative offset from the headset to the hand, rather than the wall space. But it was lots of fine tuning and tweaking on this one, and I think we never got it fully perfect, but it felt pretty good at the end. And I think people were having fun. Again, no controllers means no haptic feedback. Right, so there's no vibrations when you cast spells. There's no buttons to press and all that stuff. So we started to play with, what if we 3D print a wand? What if we put a physical wand in your hand to kind of, offset some of that loss from not having a controller? And you can see here we're actually able to blend the physical reality with the virtual, and that was pretty good, and also running great frame rates on top of that. And on the right side here you can see some of the different filaments we tried out. It's actually a PLA filament on the 3D printer, which is a typical, print material, but it's mixed with 5% wood. So it makes this very nice wooden texture here, and especially if you sand it down, it's gonna look more and more like real wood. You can see, especially on the more light colored one, that it's has been sanded down a little bit. But of course, it's not scalable if you have to sand everything down, if you want to make a thousand of these and whatnot. So luckily we found this more like dark wooden material on the right side, which was more easy just to take off the print bed. And here you go. And here, yeah, you can see the 3D printing process. Yeah, and this was even earlier. We started just with white plastic, and yeah, one print would take basically 2 hours. I think we were able to shorten that time later on. And yeah, the cost is $1.28, I think, per print, so pretty low. And but yeah, this one was only 45 grams per wand. We increased that to make it more heavy later on. So yeah, of course, if you increase the infill density of the print, you also increase the time. But of course, it's important. It feels good. It feels like a wand. And if it just feels like this very light, 45 grams is almost like a pair of glasses. It's a little bit heavier than a pair of glasses, so it doesn't really feel like much. And I think we probably tripled that density over time. And yeah, like I said, we couldn't use any head straps, especially because, yeah, different head sizes. It's just better for a more like self-service situation. You don't need to overly rely on operators just having to, let me adjust this and that and put it on you, and your head is so and so small. Here's just like, take this headset and put it on. Almost no explanation needed there. And here you can see the wand is being used on the left side, and some player testing here on the right side too. So yeah, without head straps, of course, there's downsides to it, but overall, as an location-based entertainment and kind of like for arcades and venues, overall, it's just much easier to not use head straps. And here you can see more of these like mini encounters. This is from a library experience where you are looking for a hidden key inside one of the books, and then you use this key to open a box with a rune. And also, it's important to tell you that basically what we did with all these runes is like each rune you pick up is a new magic spell. So we would like put them around all the venue, and then it doesn't matter if you get the fire spell or the frost spell first. You can just walk around in your own pace, check out what you find interested, and just like Magic Quest, it's like a kind of a physical entertainment experience you can try in America, and they have something with plastic wands and stuff like that, and you can also pick up, I think, some magic elements like that. But ultimately, this you can maybe see this is like a little bit hard maybe for some people to understand, that you first have to find a book and then get a key and then use that key to open a box. So also again, like it's about to make these one-off experiences, not to have need to do like a chain reaction of events, because then you just increase complexity. And here you can see some more experiences. Also, what we found out, that when you have to look for a key in like 50 different books, it's just really hard. It's insanely hard. What can you do? Like, maybe here's actually 100 books. And there's the one. But we definitely had to like make this way less hardcore later on, as you're gonna see soon, because it's just insanely hard to like figure out which book to choose, and you don't want to like go through 100 books before you find, and you don't even know that you need to find a book, right? It's just like, and here's like a plant with eyeballs, which we didn't end up using. But yeah, you can see we significantly had to reduce the scope of this like library experience later on. And also, it's maybe just not that fun to just keep looking for books after books after books. At least for me, I'm not a big puzzle guy anyways, so yeah. And then yeah, ultimately, what is fun? It's fun to destroy things and throw things into each other. So you can see here something I think, in my opinion, was way more fun than looking for books and a key. So yeah, just throwing things into each other. Oops. Yes. Let's see here again. Yeah. So again, using the levitation spell, and at this point of the phase of development, we had split the levitation spells into two. One is more like precise, the green one, where you can place things if you need to if there's a puzzle experience, you need to place certain things in the right ways. You use this like precision based levitation spell. And then if you just want to pick up stuff and throw stuff into each other, then you use the yellow levitation spell, which was very much inspired by the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, where you just suck in something and just shoot it out with big force. And here is one more mini encounter, or maybe a little bit of a bigger encounter, the dragon boss. We never finished this, but you can see here some of the early interactions. And here also the electric spell and the fire spell looked. And here's another mini encounter, or a slightly bigger encounter, the dragon fight. And you can see this was very early stage of the development phase, because the electric spell was pink, and you'll see the fire spell is also looking a bit funky there, and everything like that. But that's a very good example of something that works on its own without needing to be, related to any of the other experiences. This is one of the more cooler ones, because you got the flying from seating and stuff like that. Yeah, and here we made sure you couldn't just take the dragon and just move it around with the levitation spell. So there was also like some things we had to really design for, is like, what objects don't we want people to just take up and throw around. I think many of the bosses you couldn't do that. You had some feedback. If you tried to lift something, it would just do this kind of like wobbly thing. And this was really a great example of using almost like a big warehouse space, very empty space, but fill it out with digital content. And here's like a better like example of a puzzle game. So you have to move these cubes together to spell the word magic, and you can use the precision. So instead of I said earlier that we were splitting up the levitation spells into two different spells. So later on we merged them into one spell, but we would have the interaction, or the mini encounters themselves decide which of the two levitation spells that you're able to use. So in this case, we're forcing the precision levitation side of the spell onto the player, so they couldn't just like, move up the magic cubes and throw them away, because then it would be like, what now? Now they can't finish the puzzle game, right? And we tried some things where we allowed them to do that, but then they would just respawn, but that felt a little bit weird. But I think still, like, if of course if you move the letter C or whatever too far away from the original starting place, I think we would just respawn it again. So we kind of like make sure that you would be able to finish the experience in case you messed up somewhere. And then of course you finish this like magic spelling game here, and you get a rune, a magic spell at the very end of it. And yeah, here's also a good lesson. I think one of the mistakes I made was that, in the brief, the client really wanted like a fountain, and I'm like, wow, okay, great. Let's design the fountain. The rune will sort of appear here in this like bottom part here and float up and everything like that. We used a lot of iterations on designing our own fountain. First we started with this like, these lion heads here. Then we went on to like some frog heads, which makes a little bit more sense, that they would spew out water, and you could hit these heads, and then the water started coming out, and the fountain would be really big. Actually, that was really cool because you could then like walk underneath it and walk between these like shaders coming down from around you. And then you will see here like, don't waste time on product design when you can just find fountains online. You can buy fountains that people already made. Fountain design is a very old discipline that has been around for many years. So of course, like, why should I just become a fountain designer? Instead, we should focus on the interactions that happens when you hit the fountain, right? We should focus on the interactions that happens when you hit the fountain. super simple. And for this case, you can hit these like 4 pieces around the fountain and you'll spew out water. And then yeah, if you hit any other place of the fountain, the rune will instantly come and show. So this is like a very easy quest or mini encounter to finish, but it was really all about, for this part, is like something that's fun to interact with. And again, also similar to what you have in Universal Studios, you can use a wand on the fountains and it just spews some water up, and it's that in itself is really fun. And here also you have lots of exploration to do. You can go and you can even take your sword out and mess with the water shaders, and you can look down in the fountain and you'll see there's like a lot of details underneath the fountain. And again, yeah, it reacts to all the 6 spells. So you can just use you can even use the like tornado spell, and it would just shake, and these like leaves would move around. Also for the tornado spell, we had to kind of decide what objects it's allowed to pick up. So it's not allowed to pick up the fountain. It's not allowed to pick up some of the bigger bosses like the dragon boss or the troll boss. It's just allowed to like shake them a little bit. And of course, everything has to be interactive. So we can't just like say ignore this thing. It has to react in some way, right? So it's just gonna shake. These objects that cannot be picked up, they're just gonna shake a little bit. But still, it's pretty satisfying to do. It's not like I tried to do something and didn't do anything, and now it feels super frustrating. And here is something like the character design we did for one of the NPCs, right? This is like a Goblin is like a traveling vendor or salesman that is a little bit rude to you, and but has some cool items that you can get, and these items would be very fun to interact with. So there's like a magic scale here, which when you interacted with it would like move up and down. There's like a potion, there's a dragon egg, there's a compass, there's a TNT which can explode. So just really like focus on all the fun stuff, right? And yeah, you'll see. So how did we really go about like having to have each mini encounter, or quest or whatever you want to call it, interact in 8 different ways. Um, yeah, 8 different ways, right? And we came up with this like template here. Actually, Kevin did. Shout out to him. And then we started using this, and first of all, what we would start with is to fill out this template without any sketches or graphics or concept art, and just write the backstory and concept of this. So I'll just read a little bit of the backstory here. Goblin is a weary, haunts peddler with a mischievous glint in his emerald eyes, and rides a large gypsy, a crooked nose that twitches at the scent of profit. He roams the wizarding world in a creaky gypsy caravan wagon shop, pulled by spectral mules. Right, so you can kind of the sense where we're going at here, and what the whole purpose of writing this backstory is. It's not for you or for me. It's to inspire the concept artist to just make the greatest concept art that he can, and also for each of the different like interactions. So yeah, we have the 6 spells here, right? How does it react to each of the spells? So if you try to cast a fire spell on the weapon, it starts flames on the different places of the weapon starts to show up. If you try to use a frost spell on the weapon, the weapon turns into kind of a snowy winter like atmosphere. Lightning, it starts to chain light different elements of the weapon, and then yeah, what happens if you use the tornado on the weapon? It's not gonna pull up the weapon itself, but it's gonna move Goblin around and like that, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, what happens if you use sword? What happens if you use the levitate spell? You can like basically move Goblin up and down, and he will then fall down and go back into his caravan again. And then what happens if you punch the caravan or Goblin, right? And what happens if you yeah. And what about the coin? What is there a reward to this like mini interaction here? Like maybe you get like get a coin, or in the dragon case you get a rune, or in the puzzle case you get a rune. But not all the mini encounters has a rune for you, because at this point we only had 6. So you could coins, I guess, is the next best thing you can get. And here you can see some of the early sketches we did for some things that never really made it into to the final stuff, but really was like, yeah, kind of one-off things as well. Like, so here you have a shrine. When you hit it, it explodes, and maybe in this case a rune reveals itself. And maybe you can't like make it explode with every spell. And then yeah, flower kind of lotus, you can hit the flower, it also opens up. And here's some different shrine elements. Maybe you have to walk up to it for it to activate. And another thing was also like this explosive chicken, so you could kind of kick the chicken, or you can explode the chicken there. I think that's kind of like inspired from Fable or something somebody told me, but I haven't played Fable, so I'm not sure. But yeah, who doesn't like an explosive chicken, right? And here more some blog art we did for the caravan, right? I think a good sort of advice would be to just blog out stuff, test it in mixed reality. Like the scale is very often something you get wrong just by being on your computer for too long. So yeah, really, blog it out, put it on headset, like check it out. How big is it? Do we need to scale it up and down? And also just in terms of all the interaction, I think it makes sense to see how Gobbly he fits inside. I really like how the animations came out for this guy. Originally we started to put him in his own booth, but then he would kind of be stationary. Thought it would be really cool if he like came flying in sometimes, or he could actually fly away. For example, what happens if you walk into the wagon ride? We didn't want that to happen, so one thing would be that you try to walk into the wagon, it will just fly away. And that's the same for many of the other elements. Like if you walk into them, you just push them around. But also for the dragon, like if you try to walk into the dragon, it would just fly away. So we never want this to happen, where you're gonna be inside a mesh and see this glitchy graphic. You probably, many of you know how that feels if you're put the camera inside a mesh. It doesn't look good from the inside. It can also make you feel dizzy. So at all costs, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And here, back to the Halloween experience, you can see here some of the early like layout testing I was able to do, just to get a sense of the scaling. You can see maybe like it looks a little bit small here. Like the fence is a little bit small, the doorway is a little bit small, and the boss itself is a little bit small. So after this test, yeah, we were like, oh, okay, maybe we need to increase the size by 25-30% here. And yeah, it was pretty fun and runs pretty smooth for such a large thing here in all. And also we got the occlusion working. So, and now a thing I would say regarding the occlusion was, it's very important to kind of get the immersive and make you feel immersive inside the game. But also it's we have body occlusion, so basically when somebody another human comes close to you, you see that human instead of that human being overlaid with like digital content. And the reason for this is like, what happens if you punching out and now you hit somebody in the face? This wouldn't look good, and I think in America you're probably gonna be sued for that. So just like make sure that safety is one of the biggest thing on your list. And so yeah, hence why we wear the body occlusion, so you're gonna be able to see other people in their full self and not hidden behind digital content. Yeah, and here you can see more, like, basically this is more of the finalized. I think this is probably the finalized version. You can see the scale is pretty good here. You get a rune, and I think in this experience we had 3 runes. And this was for Halloween specific, so it was pretty fun, and we had tons of objects. I think this was probably more than 100 different objects. So yeah, the pumpkins, they would smash in most cases when you're interacting with them. The graves are shaking. The even the fences are moving when you walk into them or do something to them. You can also, in this case, Pumpkin Jack, he's a quite lightweight person, so he gets moved around by the tornado, as you'll see here again in a few seconds. Yeah, you can see here Jack, he's getting, and yeah, originally we didn't want to do any health bars above the boss head, but we kind of have this like a vial with like liquid stuff inside above the head, which I think is good like compromise for what we're doing here. And yeah, so yeah, really cool. And then yeah, I think hopefully you liked hearing about the stuff. And yeah, you can find me here on this website, allanYde.com. And yeah, that's me on the picture there. And thank you so much for letting me tell our story here at the Film and Media Exchange. And hopefully you learned something from this little thing here, or you had fun watching this. So see you in the next one.